Can you please mute yourself? Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone, and this is our May episode of SAP BTP Garage. And in today's session, we would be looking into how developers, consultants can build Fiori apps with ABAP Cloud, and the talk of the town, I should say, with Joule. And this is one of the use cases that was heavily in demand from the ecosystem, from partners, from customers, that how can we integrate Joule with ABAP Cloud and then develop the applications. So we recently published this nice use case also on Discovery Center. So in this session, the experts would also walk you through that how you can leverage this mission, follow these steps, and then have your application ready with Joule. This whole landscape is done in the scope of productive SAP BTP account. So please feel free to register yourself for that account as well. Joining me today in this session are the minds, the hands, and the brains behind this use case. I'm joined by Nora, Bushu, and Carl, who are the experts and the ABAPers in our company, who would be walking us through with this nice use case. I'm also being joined by my co-host Cecily, who also drives this SAP BTP Garage initiative and also is the host for EMEA and the Americas friendly time zone. For the colleagues, friends, and family who are joining us month and month, I really appreciate you for your support. Because of you, SAP BTP Garage has been a huge success, and we are seeing that how this initiative is helping the ecosystem in building and developing, deploying the solutions on top of BTP. For the new colleagues who are joining us, the whole idea for BTP Garage is to bring such use cases on a monthly basis where you see the actions, see the demo in work, and implement the same use case in your landscapes. Just like SAP BTP Garage, we also have some in-person hands-on enablement workshops for partners. So if you are a partner joining us today, or if you are colleagues who would be joining us later today, these are some of the hands-on workshops that we are rolling out across the globe, across the regions. So if you are near these locations or if you are in those locations, feel free to register for these partner workshops where we deep dive into the topics along with the experts. And with that, I think it would be a nice handover to Nora, who would then walk us through with this mission. Over to you, Nora.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. 1 second, I will share my screen. And I hope you can all see my presentation right now.
Yes.
Great. So thank you for the warm welcome. We are giving you an overview about the generative AI for ABAP. Firstly, I brought along a quick overview about the architecture. So here we see the overall items and components for generative AI with ABAP. On the top, we have the Joule component, which can assist you in various situations and use cases, like, for example, in Signavio, LeanIX, WalkMe, and where we focus today, Joule for developers, of course. Joule truly understands your business, and now it also understands ABAP and ABAP Cloud, which is really great. And the AI features are embedded in our diverse product portfolio and even in our customized AI applications. And you have, for example, the product portfolio of financial management, supply chain management, and so on. And all the AI models are hosted in the AI Foundation on the SAP Business Technology Platform, which you can see at the lower part. And this is the central core component with the BTP Gen AI Hub. And of course, we need some partners for this platform who are providing other models and infrastructures as hyperscalers, which you can see at the bottom. For example, AWS, Google Cloud, and so on. But all this infrastructure is behind the scenes. So for you as a customer or partner, you don't need to deal with all of that. It's just an overview. We prepared 3 use cases for generative AI with ABAP. The first one is the empower aspect, which means we want you to get your applications empowered with AI. And for that, we have the ABAP AI SDK. And this is also empowered via the SAP BTP Gen AI Hub. And with that, you have access to the client library you can invoke in your own applications. The second use case is the Accelerate one. So we want you to improve your work as a developer for better performance and, of course, a faster way of development. But Joule does not replace you at your work. It can be more seen as a pair programmer who has always time for you and helps you with different problems in your ADT or some various development problems you have in general. So it is more a digital colleague and not a digital replacement, which is important to mention at this point. And for that use case, we provide Joule for developers in your ADT in Eclipse. And you will see these two use cases later in the demo. And we have a third one, which is the transform aspect. This is still on the roadmap, so it's coming this year. And this is your support from your migration from ECC to SAP S/4HANA and towards the cloud and clean core. In general, our ABAP AI model was trained with more than 390,000 ABAP classes, which is more than 250 million lines of ABAP code. Because the existing AI models weren't enough for our use cases with ABAP, so we decided to train our own models, of course. But also the data modeling was very important. That's why we used more than 30 million lines of CDS code. And of course, some other sources like the SAP ABAP documentation, blog, help pages, community Q&A, and of course, instruction data annotated by our own ABAP developers. And all these steps ensure that we created a model which could provide meaningful information about the syntax, data modeling, etc. So the ABAP understanding aspect is significantly better than with conventional public models. And let's have a quick deep dive into our two use cases, which we will highlight today. The first is the Accelerate one, which I also mentioned is supported via the Joule for Developers ABAP AI capabilities. This was delivered with the 25.02 release of the SAP ABAP, BTP ABAP environment. And you have the Joule Copilot, the predictive code completion, the ABAP code explain, ABAP CDS explain, the ABAP unit test generation, and of course, the CDS unit test generation. There are a few other features planned for the coming releases, which are still on the roadmap or delivered via the 25.05 release last weekend. And the supported products are the SAP BTP ABAP environment, the SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition, and the SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition with the releases from 2025. And all information will be available also via the ABAP Cloud roadmap. The second use case, the Empower scenario, can be used via the ABAP AI SDK powered by the Intelligent Scenario Lifecycle Management. This is a central standardized access to the Generative AI Hub in the SAP AI Core. And this is the same hub we use by SAP for our ABAP AI functionalities. It is easy to configure and easy to consume. And here you have the possibility to infuse these generative AI capabilities in your own business applications and extensions. And here are the supported product, also the SAP BTP ABAP environment and the SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition and the SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, and also on-prem starting also with 2025. And all other downports are still under evaluation. And with that, I will switch to our Discovery Center mission. I need to reload it. And this is our general overview. We have the first one with the discover. I can switch into it. This is the general overview, which I told you in the beginning, and you can build a simple transactional app to manage travel bookings based on a managed business object in this mission, which you see later in the demo aspect. And we can jump directly to the next part. This is an overview of the two use cases I mentioned before. Here are the Joule for developers, ABAP AI capabilities, and the ABAP AI SDK. And with that, we can jump to the next line, which is the prepare phase. Here's an overview which systems you need. As I mentioned, the SAP BTP ABAP environment as of release 2502, or the SAP S/4HANA Cloud Public Edition as of release 2502. Here are some information about the licensing. So you have the material number for customers here, and the partners can use it via the TDD subscription with this number. Here are also further information at the SAP node or sub for me. And with that, here's just a quick hint that you need some roles and authorizations so you can use the capabilities. And the next one is the getting started phase for the tutorial or the mission itself. But I want to show you one quick feature first in the Eclipse. This is the view that everybody of you know. Hopefully, I've opened a package and my project. And when you want to use Joule in your chat, you have the option to search for Joule. And then you see here at the right side, you have the possibility to chat with Joule like a colleague. So you can ask some general questions. For example, what is RAP? And then it just needs a few seconds. So you can ask Joule general theoretical questions, but it is also aware of the entire context of your project, which I will show with the quick explain functionality. And for that, I just use this data definition and ask Joule, can you please explain me what this data definition does? So you can see it's completely aware on which project context you are, and it also provides you some questions that can be answered with this CDS view. And with that, I will hand over to Carl, who will give you the introduction to the first exercises in the mission.
Thank you, Nora. Let me share as well. So when you enter the exercises in the mission, the first step what you typically have to do is actually and the goal is basically to create a Fiori app with ABAP Cloud Generator using Generative AI. And the first step that you typically do is creating a package. Nora has already done this for us. That means you saw this already in the demo. The second one is basically, then it goes a little bit more into the details, is generating the transactional UI service itself. And what you can do here is we have prepared prompts for you, especially this first one. Let's copy this guy here. And then if you go to the tools, similar like before in Nora's screen, I prefer the white background, sorry for that. You see the hierarchy again, the package, and then on top of the package, you can invoke one of our AI wizards. And here is the generative ABAP repository object wizard. Let's pick this guy here. And then you have a full bunch of classical wizards that that don't use AI, but more and more they will be infused by AI, so to speak. And the one that you need here is the OData UI service from scratch. You get a couple of explanations, what will be created, etc. And the nice thing is now that the Joule chat that Nora showed is now attached to this wizard. First, pick the corresponding package. It's already pre-selected here. And then I say next. And now the system goes in and opens the Joule side by side with this generator. And you could do an example prompt if you like, but you can simply paste then the prompt from the mission into this window here, and make sure that you also use a suffix. That is important to distinguish between the different packages. I use here the KK2, for example. So use your initials or whatever you prefer, and then you submit this prompt like I do here. And then the system goes down, will analyze your prompt, try to construct a semantic model, application model out of the prompt. Just takes the time. And then it makes a couple of suggestions, as you can see. So Joule suggests, let's do service configuration, do a service binding named travel. This will then be the starting point of the application. It understood that there are two entities, the travel entity and the booking entity. And it suggests already a couple of fields, like the status for the travel and description and currency, total price, all those fields, begin and end date that you would expect from a travel object. And in the booking object, it suggests things like the flight price, the flight date, connection ID, carrier ID, so the usual data that is needed to identify a booked flight. If you're happy with this kind of approach, you can press the accept button. Then please look on the left side. Something has happened here. The configuration was updated. It took this suffix that I had entered into the prompt. And here you see it's creating a service type transactional with draft. That is typically what we would like to achieve. Of course, there are other options as well in the drop down. The business object entities that we saw. Sometimes it's good to resize a little bit this dialogue here to make the things more visible. And maybe this guy a bit smaller. And then you can walk through the different entity types, like travel here. Again, here, let's make this a bit bigger. And you see all of the fields that have been attached to the travel object, likewise with the booking object. Similarly. And what is very interesting is we used basically structures or data elements to refer to dictionary objects. That's the big difference compared to, let's say, a generic GPT approach where you just send a prompt over to the GPT and then get some answer back. But our AI solution combines the different things, the insight into the ABAP repository plus the intelligence delivered by the AI. And that means that you can not only do technical types, but rather also, for example, let's take this total price field, and you can then even modify, if you like, this field proposal, if you have a better data element that you would like to use, things like that. So you can refine and optimize basically the generated application on the fly. So we leave it like this for simplicity reasons, and then you press the next button. And what the system then does, it generates basically the whole, or it prepares the whole application to be generated. So it's quite a large bunch of objects that you can see here. So you see the different artifact classes like service binding, etc. Then business object layers, the underlying database model layers. And you can certainly walk through those items to double check. For example, here you could see how is the table exactly defined. So make your last sort of refinements if necessary, or at least review. Let's so there's no edit possibility here, but you can review what needs to be generated. And if I would now press the next button, which I won't do, then the whole application artifact tree will be generated and added to the package that you see here on the left-hand side. That's the typical approach, and that's probably the heart of the 2505 version. And we have lots of other capabilities for which I would like to hand over to Burcu.
Yes, thank you, Carl. Okay, now, so let me share my screen. All right, now Carl shown us that we have generated our object types. And the next step is so you know how important unit tests are. So we have our object types, we have our application, but now we need to write unit tests. And you know, as a developer, you often have less time to write some unit tests, and here can Joule support us. So in the exercise 2, let's jump in here. So we will first enhance the CDS view, which we have created in the step before, with a new field. So I will show you it in our system. So in the step before, we have created our object types, and this CDS view set our booking. One is one object type. So in this CDS view, we are selecting from a database table, set booking, and we are selecting some fields, parent, booking ID, customer ID, carrier ID, connection ID, flight date, and then we have our flight price. And in this CDS view, we have a calculation. We have a calculation, and we want to apply some discounts to some carrier ID. So, for example, if the carrier ID is LH, then we want to apply some a discount about 10%. And if the carrier ID is AF, then we want to apply a discount about 15%. So back to our mission. So in the exercise 2.1, we have enhanced. So we added the discount for the different carrier IDs. And the next step is now, so this is how our CDS view looks like. And the next step is now, so this is our logic, and we want to generate the unit test for this CDS view. And you know, so we have some simple selections, but this calculation is a little bit complex. So this part will be very important for our unit test. So what I will do now is I will just select my object type and then open the context menu, and then we will find Joule here. What we can also do is I can just select my CDS view like Nora did, and then I can say, hey, Joule, please explain me what this CDS view does. And then we can just see the purpose of the CDS view. Okay, but now let's generate the unit test for the CDS view. So I will select new ABAP test class and give it a name. Okay. Okay, I'm clicking next. And then we will see, so it found our, we are selecting from this database table. So here we can see the SQL dependencies. And then Joule will list our the important test case calculation. So in this case, we have our calculation, which is the discounted flight price field, and then we have our case with the different carrier IDs and our discount for these carrier IDs. Okay, now we can see here some test data. So in this case, in this example, so our carrier ID is LH, the flight price is 10, and we expect our discount about 10%. So the discounted flight price should be 900. So that's looks nice. So let's just finish this and let's create our unit test class for our CDS view. And then we can see, so here we have now a new class, ZCLCDS King BK. And then we are in the test class. So Joule has generated us some the whole unit test class with our test data and also the test setup, our doubles, and then so this is the important part now for our content. So we can see in this example, we have the carrier ID LH, the flight price at 1,000, and the discounted flight price is 900. And then we have also the other test case for the second carrier ID, which is AF. The flight price is 2,000, and for AF, we apply 15% discount, which is then 1,700. And then I can just save and activate this test class, and I will just execute it. Run as ABAP unit test. And then we can see our test methods. I can make some changes here to see that, so let's change it. So let's check if 1,000, so in this case, I wouldn't get any discount, and I can just run my unit test again. And then we can see, okay, it fails now. All right, now this was an example about generating unit tests for CDS use, but you can do it also for other object types like classes. So in the exercise 3, you can just use Joule for generating unit tests, or you can see here. So in the first step, you can just we will just create the travel helper class, but our unit test will be empty. And then you can, in the 3.2, we can analyze some dependencies like in our example. So let's jump back to our travel helper class. So we will write some unit tests for this class. And here we can see we have some dependencies in the validate customer method, which is DMO customer. And in the mission, you can use Joule for isolate database tables, because in the unit test, you don't want to use real data. And here can Joule support you with isolating the database table. So it will create you test doubles for your unit test class. All right, this is, so this would be the exercise 3. And what I want to show you now is, so the other exercises are also with unit testing. You can use the predictive code completion there, but I want to jump into the ABAP AI SDK, and I want to show you a small example here. So the first step is a prerequisite. You can set up the ABAP AI SDK, but for time reasons, I will skip this. But here the details are listed how you can set up the ABAP AI SDK. And in this step, we will use the ABAP AI functionalities, capabilities in our own coding. So for that, it's the exercise 6. So we have a class, the travel helper class. And what we want to do here is, let me show you first the created application. So in our service binding, we can just open our application, which looks like this. Okay. So here we have our travel ID, our agency ID, the total price, and then we have some travels here. So this is the application which we have created with Carl. So, and what we want to do is now we want to add some AI functionalities into our own app. So for that, let's have a look to the travel helper class, which is here. And yeah, here we have some methods like get booking status or validate customer. In this method, we look, okay, if the customer really exists. But what we want to do is now we want to let Joule generate the description. So in our application, if we, for example, open this travel, we can see here we have the travel ID, which is that, and then we have the city which we are traveling to, New York, and then we have the description field, experience the vibrant energy of New York. But we want to let Joule generate this description. So the user will not enter this description. Joule will generate this description based on the entered city. So for that, we have the generate description method, and what you need to do is you need just to create an instance of the ISLM API factory, and then you need to enter your ISLM scenario, which is another object type here. And this ISLM scenario enables or allows you to manage all of your AI scenarios. And in this scenario, you need also an intelligent model where you can also, so where is our intelligent scenario assigned? And here we can also define the large language model, which we are using for this use case. Okay, go back to our 12 helper class. So now we have an instance of the API ISLM API factory. And then what we need to do is we can set a system role and we say, this is like just entering some prompts in ChatGPT. We say, okay, now in this case, you are the travel agent expert. And now we add our prompts here. So please generate a travel description for the entered city, and it should be less than 100 characters. And then we just say, okay, so now please execute it for our prompts and get the completion. So that's basically it, some codes about, 10, 15 or 20 lines of code. We can use the ABAP AI SDK in our coding. Let's see this example in our app. Okay, I will just create a new travel entry. So for that, let's say, okay, we are traveling to Waldorf, and say continue. Okay, and then we can see now, so the description field, so Joule generated us this description, explore historic charm in Waldorf, Germany. And this is how you can integrate the ABAP AI SDK capabilities into your own coding. All right, so with that, so the mission is complete, and with that, I think we can now start the Q&A round.
Thank you so much, Bushu, for that demo, and generating the unit cases and adding the description was really cherry on top, I believe. So yeah, I think the round is now open for questions. So I saw that one of the colleague had his hand up. So please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can also use the chat to post your questions as well. One of the colleague, Vivek, had his hands up raised. Vivek, you can post your question or you can unmute yourself to ask your question as well.
I was just asking, thanks for a very informative session. Regarding the Joule, can it be used for debugging also?
For debugging, did I understand it correctly?
Correctly, yes.
For the time
Because
being,
for automation of,
yes, please.
Yeah, go ahead. So I was just mentioning, since it can be used for generation of the unit test scripts, right, which is a very good feature. So I was just asking, can this be used for debugging of the programs also going forward?
I think that's a very interesting aspect. It's currently not supported natively, so to speak. That means when you do your debug session, it's like it would be, you have your debug window and you can set breakpoints and watch points and examine the variables and step by step run through the code. But the runtime is currently not covered by AI. That might change in the future. For the time being, we're pretty much focused on design time. So like Butch showed, the generation of artifacts like tests, etc., generation of code or explanation like Nora showed, a generation of business objects and the like. So it's pretty much focused on the design time. runtime might be an option later on. Why not? To faster find certain important points in the coding, to set breakpoints at positions where important decisions are taken. Find me the location of this and that variable or this and that statement that manipulates the variable. I think there's no boundaries for imagination, I would say, but for the time being, it's not in the runtime.
Thank you so much for that answer.
Yeah,
There's
because that
also,
will make the life. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, please.
Yeah. So can we use this by using the plugin free of cost in the Eclipse, or is it license based? Joule?
Yeah, currently we run a license program where we have a promotional license that doesn't cost anything. So it's a zero SKU license. Actually, we have two licenses. Where one license is the customer license, so that's €0, but you have to sign a contract to accept the terms and conditions for SAP AI. The other option is if you're a partner, you can go to the Partner Edge portal and use the Manage My Services app, the self-service, to get also a license, a partner TDD, test development demo license, that you can use. The promotional period ends mid of September, so make sure that you be fast. If you don't have done so far, please go to the Partner Edge portal or go to your account executive if you're a customer, and then apply for a license.
All right. Yeah.
Asim,
Hi
go ahead.
guys. Yeah, hi guys. Thank you for engrossing session, and also I'd like to point out that using an LLM within ABAP as an API is simply groundbreaking from what I see. As correctly pointed out, it opens a lot of opportunities based on what we can imagine for it to do. So I have a couple of questions. Firstly, from what I understand, I just wanted you to correct me that the usage of Joule within Eclipse would be based on what environment or what solution we implement. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say Nora put this slide at the beginning where she listed the products that are supported. Currently, it's
Mm-hmm.
the public cloud, both SAP BTP ABAP environment, that means on BTP basis only, so to speak, and then certainly also S/4HANA public cloud. And we plan for private cloud shipment, private cloud offering in the second half of this year. So that is basically our private cloud offering based on the version 2025. These are the three products that are supported. And that means that that's typically what you do in the ABAP space. You're building either side-by-side application or you build some extension on top of the S4 stack. And these use cases, of course, at the end of the year, will cover them all. Yeah? For the time being, it's the public cloud only. And apart from that, do you expect it for other products somehow, or what would you expect?
No, I was just like checking out what all is supported. So, like
Yes.
being in consulting,
Okay.
we
Yeah.
would need to recommend like how would we use it and do it for what client, like what environment is.
Correct. So for
Second,
the first half, it's public cloud, and then the second half, basically Q4. Yeah, Q4, you will also have an option for private cloud.
private cloud as well. And also I saw it was mentioned that it is also supported for on-prem HANA setups as well.
Yeah, well, on-premise is a special situation that has been discussed a couple of times. Christian Klein made it very clear that AI best suits for cloud offerings. So for the time being, on-premise is not supported.
Okay. And I had another question. So I saw that we used a particular LLM for the ISLM factory that we used for accessing the generative AI capabilities. So would I have an option or a choice on what LLM I can use? A, and B, if I have like I have a lot of organization specific data, right? Which I would want the LLM to use and propose not solutions per se, like answers based on what my organization specifically requires. So would I have a option to, would there be a space where I could fine tune the LLM for my specific needs?
A very good question. I think for the time being, it's basically the LLMs that are hosted, that are offered through the SAP AI core, so predefined basically. But we won't stop with that. Yeah. So for the time being, it's limited to the AI LLM, to the large language models hosted on AI core. And Butchu showed this, I think it was GPT-4o that was being used for the use case here. Of course, we also think about how can we embed external offerings, for example, a partner model. Yeah, if you followed Sapphire, Philip Herzig presentation was just this week in Orlando. He talked about onboarding also partner models into the BTP AI core. So I think that's a very important case for the future. Likewise, also model content that stems from the customers themselves. Yeah, customers might have also sources, but this is still in the works. Yeah, this is still under consideration. It's not yet an official offering, and there's not yet a defined roadmap for such things. But it's very natural to think into these directions. Yeah, for the time being, it's basically the LLMs that are hosted on AI core.
Thank you for those answers and questions. I also see there are some questions in the chat. Let me read up the first question, guys. So the first one is whether the ABAP LLM model is internal to SAP, or are there plans to expose it for the partners and customers to consume?
Would you want to take this one?
You can go for it, Ka.
Yeah, no, it's like we told before, it's basically internal. It's not exposed. It's being implicitly used by our tools, like Butcher showed in the demos, etc. It's currently not exposed for external usage.
There's a small follow-up part again to this question is, if we use ABAP AI SDK, can we or can't we use the ABAP LLM model?
Not programmatically, because that would exactly be the exposure of the model. Yeah? If AI SDK could invoke the prompts that Nora showed, you could basically also programmatically access them, and this is currently not exposed.
Thank you so much. The next question is building an UI app from scratch using Joule. Is this only for new table as a data source and cannot be used for existing custom or standard tables or data source? So that's the question.
Yes. There I'm a little bit over question. For the time being, it's basically the whole prompt, and it generates the whole table definitions. I mean, the first step that we did is we allowed to reuse structures. I think that's a very important aspect. Yeah, it allows to reuse structures and data elements that are already inside the system. For us, I think it's a very natural step then to think also, could you reuse certain parts of the application model, for example, the database table that was created by a customer or partner upfront, or reuse an SAP table for whatever reason. or not SAP table, but maybe CDS view, that would be better. This is something, to my knowledge, is currently not yet supported. I mean, it's the first release that we went out with the BO generator, but definitely a use case to be discussed. And by the way, we have also started a kind of a customer influence group with the designers of this BO generator. I'm pretty sure that this type of question will also come up in this context.
Thanks, Carl, for that. The next question is on the feature of explain. What is the scope or the limitation of the explain feature? For example, can it explain a small package and explain the relationship between various objects?
Currently, the focus is on object only. Yeah, so the explain capabilities is basically a flat query against explain me this CDS, explain me this class, explain me this package on the top level. It does not yet recursively descend into the whole package structure and then basically tries to explain the whole repository. In principle, I would say it's not limited looking forward, because that's a very natural question. But for the time being, it focuses on the leaf level, so to speak.
Thank you. There's one question on the TDD, Carl. So the user has tried the partner Joule free license for ABAP, the 2502 version. The model has information as of October 2023. So are there any plans to update the model with the more up-to-date information?
Well, I mean, we have multiple models in place. You saw the GPT-4o from showcased by Burcu, but we have the ABAP model, which is very new, so it's definitely not back from October 2023. There are other models that will come across, so there will be a model marketplace, I'm quite sure. We will see a lot of very modern models come up, and especially the ABAP model, which is the heart of generating stuff. Generating code, especially generating unit tests, is very constantly being refined and optimized. Because we, like Nora showed in the beginning, we build it on our own, basically.
So, thanks for that. I also see the other questions are being answered in the chat, so please feel free to take a look at that. There's also one question. Okay, this is also answered. Yeah, I think those were the questions I had, which were not answered. Other questions I see, okay, there's one more. In case of release changes, is there somewhere a change log for Joule to see what has been improved since the last update? So towards the direction of release notes.
Exactly, that would be the roadmap. There you see what new capabilities will be added on our Joule journey, so to speak. And yeah, I would refer to the roadmap here.
Then I think this question also aligns to the roadmap, Carl, but please confirm. Can Joule support to analyze already developed wrap objects? Okay, I think we have it on the roadmap. So all good.
Correct. And Burcu just shared the roadmap itself.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions? Okay, Himanshu, you can please, let's say, unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah, the same question actually. If there is an already developed wrap application, so can Joule will help us to understand that object? One thing. And second, could you please share some link means what partner that you told about license to use this Joule in Eclipse license for partner? How can
The
we use
license, correct. The license information you find on Partner Edge. Yeah.
that?
Partner Edge. It's also part on our standard L1 deck. There's very thorough information on the Partner Edge. If you go to AI license, if I can find out the link, I will share it also in the Edge is a very good piece of information because it's tightly embedded into all the other partner offerings. So I would easily go to Partner to find all of the details. It's very straightforward. It's basically a TDD license, like you would order any other license. The BTP, the generic PHP license for development can be used, and make sure that you always edit to some existing license you already have, because it's a model like add-on in the management services. Let me find out the link for that.
We have one more question. Does Joule train itself use customer code?
Also interesting question. Currently not, but we get a lot of questions from customer partners. How can I extend? How can I build my own model, so to speak, etc. So things we are considering. We are evaluating. We not directly, not only model, but over time. Models need to grow. That's the nature of AI. And we need to somehow manage this process very properly. As you can imagine, this is a more challenging task compared to providing a model that cannot be changed through the interaction. What happens is through the chat, of course, Joule understands also during the chat. A good example is if you use certain naming conventions in your code, it will also reuse these naming conventions in the conversation. Yeah, so there is a small learning inside each conversation, but it's not persisted into the model itself.
There's one more question. After installing Eclipse and installing ADT, will it get me Joule add-on?
Yeah, there's no special add-on. It's if you go to a latest version of Eclipse on the tools hanaondemand.com homepage, where Eclipse is typically hosted, then Joule is inside. The Joule add-on is basically you need a license that, like we discussed before, but once you log on with the newest version of Eclipse, no additional installation is necessary. Joule is simply there.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, there's one more. Whether the code used to generate the UI app from scratch is exposed in GitHub. Yeah, that's right. It's available in the GitHub, also in the mission as well. So feel free to start the mission. It's of course free of cost. Great. Okay, I see all the questions answered. No other hands raised. Thank you so much, colleagues Nora, Carl, and Buju for that wonderful session and the Q&A, and also to the participants for making it much more engaging. Hopefully your questions and doubts were answered, and I really appreciate for you all to take out time. We also have a next session for the EMEA and Americas friendly time zone, so I would really appreciate if you share the session to your colleagues and counterparts. The recording and the presentation would be uploaded on our YouTube channel and also on our Garage website. So feel free to check them out. With that, thank you so much and thank you for your time. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.